Hi there, Doug Stewart with IT Creations with another custom build featuring an AMD Ryzen 9 5950X processor and for once paired with an AMD Radeon 6800 XT GPU. I mean, we are using an AMD processor. It seems like we never get to play with the AMD cards. Of course, we are going to squeeze some ASUS, Crucial, Samsung, and Kingston bits into our Lian case for good measure. By the way, if you like our video reviews of niche servers, workstations, and gaming platforms, subscribe. It does help our channel, and aside from the gaming stuff, where else are you going to find this obscure content? Let's take a look. Our gaming station this week includes a few items that will be familiar to you if you've seen the previous videos, like that AMD Ryzen 9 5950X processor. The ASUS X570 Plus desktop board is new since the previous video showed the Pro version, not the Plus version. New hardware would be that Lian case and a few other Lian accessories. A Kraken CPU cooler and AMD Radeon RX 6800 XT black GPU. Now I'm wondering if it comes in other colors. We'll get to that. This case supports 3 basic PCI configurations with support for ITX, Micro ATX, ATX, and even eATX motherboard form factors. Each of these case configurations and motherboards offers a different number of PCI slot options. In turn, the mounting panels and back can easily be repositioned to get the most fans and coolers shoehorned into this baby. Specifically, we have the 011 or 011 Dynamic Mini ATX mid-tower case by Lian. Did you know that IT Creations is a custom configurator of AMD processors and products? We also partner with NVIDIA, Corsair, and Gigabyte so we can build that custom gaming rig, and then some. We can even outfit your graphic animation staff with the latest hardware and can help you bring your new gaming experience or blockbuster movie CGI creations to the real world. We even offer rentals. Need, want, or desire? IT Creations has your back for gaming or development. If you are in the know, the 011 Dynamic Mini was designed in collaboration with German designer Bauer, and his name is right below the logo on this box. Surprisingly, there are no logos on the outside of the case, just on the inside storage bracket behind the rear panel. And like I said, I like it that way. He is, and I'm lifting this right off the Lian site, a world-renowned German overclocking, water cooling, and gaming evangelist. The 011 Dynamic Mini is a thick yet compact little case that I think is really going to highlight the hardware nicely. Sliding interlocking slot and pin fasteners for the front, side, and top panels create some very tight tolerances on the corners of the case. Removable mesh filters in the top and bottom filter the air that is pulled in. The build quality on this case is excellent, but airflow may be impacted by the lack of any vents around or through the front panel. That said, heat shouldn't be a factor because we're using a water cooler on the CPU and maxing out on our fan allocation. Additional brackets come with a case kit providing mounting and display options for the coolers, the hard drives, the back panels, and the GPU to bump it up a little or for a different location. There's a flat pump stand, an elevated pump stand, and even a floating pump stand, just to give you some idea. This case has options for vertical GPU kits that will replace one of the panels on the back of the system. We went with a standard horizontal mount. The PCIe slot on the ASUS board is reinforced to support the added weight, and it does look good. The size of the radiator is dependent to a certain extent on location within the chassis, with bracket options for the top, side, or bottom. That's why the internal panels and PCIe slot brackets on the back panel can be removed and repositioned. Whether using an ITX, Micro ATX, ATX, or eATX motherboard, it's easy to create more room for your unique configuration. The radiator can be up to 360 millimeters. Options, options, options. Ours is 280 millimeters and will be mounted vertically on the side panel towards the front but behind 2 other fans. The case didn't come with any fans, so we have included 7 independent fans, also from Lian. The UniFan 120 and UniFan 140, and they are nice. Modular, stacking, and connect to each other like little Lego blocks with interconnecting plastic tabs. The kit also comes with a variety of cables for different connection options. Featuring integrated LED light strips down the sides, these fans look designed rather than industrial. Hey, we added a few colored lights to these crappy fans and painted them. These look good, and they'll look even better in this case. Our last 2 gaming stations had the ASUS X570 Pro motherboard, and you can see that video here. This one has an ASUS TUF Gaming X570 Plus motherboard for the AMD Ryzen 9 5950X processor. It's also part of the TUF Gaming Alliance, thankfully for compatibility issues with all the different manufacturers. Here are the specifications for the X570 Plus motherboard. You can pause the video to view specific portions, but this board is very similar to the Pro version with a few differences. In a nutshell, the processor and motherboard you install will determine certain ports that are active on the top panel, the number of PCIe slots available, and other details. Support for AMD processors from the 5000 series we're installing in our system down to the AMD Ryzen 2000 series desktop processors, military-grade TUF components, active chipset heatsinks, VRM heatsinks, and M.2 heatsink. The Pro board does have an Intel 2.5 gigabit LAN port, while the Plus version uses a Realtek LAN, which if you don't plan on using high bandwidth, then no problems. Of course, you could also install a discrete NIC in one of those PCI slots for even better bandwidth performance. The other by 16 slot is powered by the motherboard chipset and can also be used for another GPU, if you wanted to add another GPU. Both NVIDIA SLI and AMD Crossfire are supported, but not at the same time. Nobody really does that anymore anyways, though. The Pro board also features Realtek 7.1 surround sound high-definition audio, while on the Plus board, you have the Realtek S1200A. I could go on, but let's get to the other stuff, and I will mention more about the board as we go along. Again, we have the AMD Ryzen 9 5950X with 16 physical cores and 32 virtual threads providing compute. This CPU was installed in the last 2 or 3 builds we shared. The specifications you can pause to look at in more detail if you want. I will say that this processor is a great chip for developers and creators, gaming too. As AMD says, and it's true, 16 cores, 0 compromises, one processor that can game as well as it creates. It's like the One Ring for gaming. If you want to use this for work and play, have at it. How does it compare to the Intel Core i9 10900K processor? AMD's 5950X runs on less power, has 20% more cores, and is about the same price. And now it's time we probably release the Kraken. I'm not talking about that lawsuit of the giant sea creature from Clash of the Titans, but I am talking about the Kraken Z63 liquid cooler from NZXT for that CPU. It has a 280mm radiator with 2 140mm fans, plus a little LCD panel on the actual CPU contact. With the RGB connector attached to the system board, that LCD panel can be configured to display 24-bit color, show the temperature of your CPU or GPU, or you can customize it with a GIF on that little 320 by 320 pixel LCD panel. We also got 2 of the Strimer Plus RGB equipped extension cables from Lian. One, the addressable RGB Strimer Plus 24-pin that has 120 LED lights and connects directly onto the motherboard through a 24-pin connector. That one is strictly for lighting effects. The other is the Lian addressable RGB Strimer Plus 8, which has 8 connector pins providing power to the GPU and features 108 LED lights. The other end of the Plus 8 pin connects to the non-bling power cable coming off the PSU. A short ARGB 3-pin cable adapter connects the Strimer to one of the headers on the motherboard, allowing for control of the LED lighting effects via the ARMORY Crate software that came with the ASUS board. The 24-pin and 8-pin Strimer Plus each come with a controller that can also connect to the motherboard using the ARGB cable. We have the non-Plus version 8-pin GPU. The difference between them is the number of LEDs, with the Strimer 8-pin at 108 LEDs and the Strimer triple 8-pin at 162 LEDs, plus a control panel. The other standard 8-pin Strimer only comes with a cable to connect to the ARGB header. In total, the Strimer strips have 84 lighting effects, all controlled by a simple control panel or the motherboard software accessible through the ASUS AURA Sync software utility. The LCD panel on the Kraken CPU cooler is also a really interesting feature. We had some fun switching it back and forth to some GIFs that I grabbed right off of Google. Keyword search Kraken. Really easy to change them up through the NZXT CAM software, and you can download that for free. On the other hand, all the fans in those Strimer RGB strips plug into headers on the system board and are controlled by ARMORY Crate, which is provided for use with the ASUS 570X Plus motherboard. ARMORY Crate offers centralized account management plus control of the lighting effects through AURA Sync, which is part of the ARMORY Crate utility. It also offers an easy-to-use UEFI BIOS for more granular control over critical settings, with an easy mode for beginners and an advanced mode when you feel more confident. For this build, we're not even using any of the 4 drive bays supported. The 2 2.5-inch trays can be installed in the storage bracket with the Lian logo, and another back drive cage that supports 2 3.5-inch drives that can be added in back. Instead, we're going with dual PCI 4.0 M.2 sticks in a non-RAID format. Although you can do a RAID with 2 M.2s for even faster performance, these don't have the same specifications nor the same capacity. You want to use the exact same drive if you want to do a RAID. We have a 1TB Samsung 980 Pro using that PCI 4.0 lane to full potential, and a 2TB Kingston NV1 NVMe SSD, which uses PCI 3.0 speeds. Still pretty fast and offers twice the storage. Operating on a PCI 3.0 bandwidth, the Kingston NV1 M.2 delivers a maximum sequential read of up to 2100 megabytes and a sequential write of up to 1700 megabytes. On the other hand, our PCI 4.0 enabled Samsung 980 Pro is PC Magazine and PC World Editor's choice for speed and reliability, and simply the fastest M.2 on the market. It delivers a sequential read of up to 7,000 megabytes per second and almost 3 times the sequential write speed of the Kingston unit at up to 5,000 megabytes per second. The Samsung 980 will be our boot drive and occupy that happy place under the heat sink because this one has been known to generate some heat. The Kingston NV1 M.2 will be used primarily for storage. With just 2 M.2s, which are essentially the size of a stick of gum, it does make for less cabling and generally a cleaner look in this transparent case. Given all the bling in this case, we went with 2 Crucial Ballistix RGB 32GB memory kits with 2 16GB 3200 MHz memory modules in each pack. The 4 slots on the motherboard are capable of supporting up to 256 GB of memory with 64GB modules in each slot. More RGB too, with strips along the spine of each module. These Crucial Ballistix modules can also be controlled by the AURA Sync utility in the ARMORY Crate application. Last but certainly not least, the GPU. In this case, we're using the XFX Speedster MERC 319 AMD Radeon RX 6800 XT Black Gaming graphics card with 16GB GDDR6 and RDNA2. RDNA stands for Radeon DNA as the code name for the GPU architecture and instruction set created by AMD, first released in Q3 of 2019. This card has RDNA2, so the next generation, and 4608 stream processors. Oh, and those stream processors are like NVIDIA CUDA cores. It has a base clock of up to 1600 MHz and a boost clock of up to 2340 MHz. First, the specs. In answer to that first question at the beginning, it only comes in black. Apparently, this card is a little better than the NVIDIA RTX 3080 card. I mean, the specs look better, and the online response is quite favorable too. I will say that the pricing for this GPU and others are still way out of whack, and you simply cannot find them at MSRP. And yes, we will benchmark this baby soon enough, and even compare to that RTX 3080 card. But AMD has typically beat NVIDIA on pricing, which is definitely a factor in, is it better? The XFX MERC 319 RX 6800 XT offers a 16GB GPU memory size, while the NVIDIA RTX 3080 card has only 10GB of GDDR6 memory with the base card and a 12GB memory size with the TI version. Both support PCI 4.0, but clearly we're missing a few gigabytes on NVIDIA's side for a true comparison. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say the Radeon is going to be kicking some NVIDIA 3080 butt. However, will it be noticeable? I mean, the reality is it's only a few frames per second faster on a bunch of games. That said, it's a few frames faster. With 16GB of GDDR6 memory and a 128 megabyte cache, you get high bandwidth performance and can easily knock out some 4K games at high frame rates. This card also features AMD's Fidelity FX Super Resolution, or FSR for short. It boosts the frame rate 2.4 times on average in games that support this feature to dramatically improve the image quality and resolution. There are 4 presets to help you optimize your gaming experience right out of the box, which is pretty cool. Indeed, the XFX MERC 319 RX 6800 XT did beat out the 3080 card, which is actually a Gigabyte RTX 3080 OC on our 3D benchmarks using the TimeSpy application. We actually compared it to the values we got from our previous video using the White Corsair Tower, and both systems have the AMD 5950X processor. So in that respect, same, but not really the same, because that one did have the ASUS X570 Pro board, and this one has the ASUS X570 Plus board. Strangely, we did log some differences on the Cinebench app regarding the CPU. That in a minute. The RX 6800 XT produced a score of 16,990, which is 808 points higher compared to the Gigabyte RTX 3080 OC at 16,182 points. Still, like I said, we do have a gigabyte deficit with the RTX 3080 card, but it still offers some crazy high frame rates, just not quite as high as the RX 6800 XT. Back to the CPU score, which you would think would be about the same given a similar board and the same CPU. However, this time the score of 23,045 points with the ASUS X570 Wi-Fi Plus board was significantly slower than the numbers we logged on the White Corsair Tower build at 24,493 using the ASUS X570 Pro board. We had a similar result with the TimeSpy benchmarking on the GPU, which really is a measure of the GPU performance, but does still show some CPU performance numbers too. No, we really didn't figure out the why of that, because how long do you want this video to be? On another note, both cards are still crazy fast, and both results were just standard operating speed right out of the box. We didn't even use the rage setting on the XT6800 RX, which would have increased the numbers even more. That's about it for this build. If you like this video, give us the thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. IT Creations is a partner with AMD, Corsair, Lian, ASUS, and NZXT. We can build you a gaming station, high-performance workstation, or custom configured server. That's what we do. We even build and rent workstations, both AMD and Intel-based, to the studios for big budget productions. So if you are looking for high-performance hardware or some critical component to get your servers back online, check out IT Creations. Until next time, I'm Doug Stuman with IT Creations, and thanks for watching.